Even though I would really like to see an August Nintendo Direct, I'm pretty pumped for Pikmin 3 Deluxe on the Nintendo Switch. Not only have I never played Pikmin 3, I've never played a Pikmin game at all. Oh, and Sony, by the way, we're still waiting on that PS5 price. It would be pretty handy to know, you know? Hey guys, it's Rob here, and welcome back to the Robo-chan Show Mega Show, a sort of mutated version of the Robo-chan Show where we talk about some of the biggest and largest gaming news from Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony this past week every Sunday. If you like these gaming news recaps, subscribe for more gaming news, and have that notification bell on. So in today's recap, we have some pretty interesting topics to talk about. We have those August Nintendo Direct leaks that may be more interesting than I thought, especially when you count in the King Zell leak plus the Pikmin 3 Deluxe announcement for the Nintendo Switch. There's also No More Heroes 1 info for the Nintendo Switch, and Rocksteadys' new Suicide Squad game, and much more, so let's get started. So it's the 9th of August, and Paper Mario and the Origami King is out, and everyone is playing it or finished it already, and there are a lot of Nintendo Switch games that are unknown at this point when it comes to Nintendo Switch release dates, and Nintendo is still being quiet. I don't know about you guys, but I'd like to know at least some of these release dates for games like Bravely Default 2, which actually comes out in 2020. Now it's my thinking, just like with Pikmin 3 and Paper Mario, we're probably gonna get a Twitter announcement for Bravely Default 2, so watch out for that. Not to mention holiday season is coming up, and Nintendo hasn't revealed their huge games for the holiday season if they have any games. So when Nintendo rumors from Jeff Grubb from VentureBeat appeared, I think a lot of us got really excited. Now Jeff Grubb has done this before where he tweets out his schedule for upcoming gaming events that are going to be happening, and usually there is a Nintendo event sneaked in there. We usually end up getting some sort of Nintendo event later on. Jeff Grubb's post says that we'll be getting some sort of event, not necessarily a Nintendo Direct or a full Nintendo Direct, mind you, somewhere between August 11th and August 22nd. Now there are maintenance scheduled around that time for the Nintendo Switch, so this could be some sort of event like the Nintendo Direct or Nintendo Direct Mini, or some variation of a Nintendo Direct Mini, like the Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase. And before that, we had another leak from King Zell, a Nintendo leaker who seems to know his stuff when it comes to Nintendo Switch leaks and has become pretty popular among the Nintendo leakers. Now King Zell says that there's going to be a small event before the main event in August, so I thought that we're going to be getting an August Mini Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase and a full Nintendo Direct. The August Mini Nintendo Direct being the small event, and the Nintendo Direct that's going to be a full Nintendo Direct being the main event. For those of you who don't know, Nintendo plans on doing more of these partner mini Nintendo Directs, which could be their new way of marketing their products, as they said they want to explore in the shareholder meeting. But some of you guys tossed around the idea of the Pikmin 3 announcement being the small event on Twitter. The main event, the one that Jeff Grubb speaks of, could be the main event. Now whether or not this is a Nintendo Direct or not, we can never really tell. But speaking on Pikmin 3, like Paper Mario and the Origami King, Pikmin 3 was announced on Twitter. For those of you who have Wii U, you probably noticed that this game is missing from the eShop now. Nintendo has removed the cheaper version of Pikmin 3 from the Wii U shop. Now one thing that I think Nintendo should have done was held a regular mini Nintendo Direct and added the Pikmin 3 trailer into that showcase. The mini Nintendo Direct would have been way better in my opinion. But all the same, I'm very excited for Pikmin 3 because like the intro says, I've never played a Pikmin game. But this begs the question on whether or not we're gonna see a full Nintendo Direct if Nintendo are okay with having these huge reveals on Twitter. And if they're okay with that, do we really need a mini Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase? I just don't know what Nintendo was thinking here. Continuing with the Nintendo news, we have an update on those who can't find a Nintendo Switch, and could be great news for those who want more Nintendo news in general. So the virus was affecting Nintendo's ability to push Nintendo Switch units, but I'm happy to say that the Nintendo Switch production has almost recovered. Now in the Nintendo shareholder meeting, they did say that the end of summer would be seeing more production of the Nintendo Switch and getting it back on track like it was before the virus happened. So this makes a lot of sense that their projections were right and we're seeing this happen. Summer isn't exactly over yet, but I expect by the time fall hits, we should be back normal with Nintendo Switch production and hopefully gaming news for Nintendo, which could mean that the same for development of Nintendo Switch games, which would be great. This could potentially mean that we could see an increase in Nintendo news as well as other usual Nintendo Directs instead of waiting months and months and months for the next Nintendo Direct, or really any update on Nintendo games at all, which is another reason why I put more faith in Jeff Grubb and King Zell than I usually would. Now for those who are interested in No More Heroes, we have some really good news for you guys, and me too, I guess, because I'm interested in that game too. It seems that we have a No More Heroes 1 game for Nintendo Switch rated in Taiwan. Now, a while back I did say that we will probably get No More Heroes 1 and 2 on Nintendo Switch just in time for No More Heroes 3. Now, of course, No More Heroes 2 isn't rated yet, and we haven't heard anything about that coming to Nintendo Switch, but I would fully expect it to get rated soon, and we'll see something pop up on that. As we saw Bayonetta 1 being bundled with Bayonetta 2. This actually makes me wonder if Bayonetta 1 and 2 is going to be bundled together with Bayonetta 3 too, actually, or are they just going to re-release it? Moving on to the PlayStation side of things, we have our State of Play. Now, this State of Play was rumored for a bit before the initial announcement on Twitter, which perfectly set up expectations. I mean, me, myself, I went in expecting no PS5 content at all. But lo and behold, we actually got some PS5 content. Godfall showed off some gameplay, which looks pretty cool. We had a ton of cool indie games like Pathless, which in my opinion was the standout. I really enjoy games that have a movement system, so in an open world based around that sounds very exciting to me. But I think the big focus that we should be talking about is Hood Outlaws and Legends, a game that seems like a Assassin's Creed multiplayer type game that had mostly CGI, but we did have short snippets of gameplay that looked really good. Now this makes me wonder if this is what the next gen Assassin's Creed is going to look like, because Valhalla is more of a cross-gen Assassin's Creed. Now I know a lot of people were disappointed with this Sony State of Play, but I honestly wasn't, because Sony set some expectations before the initial showcase. I think a lot of us are just a little antsy, if that's even a word, because we don't know the pre-order date or the price, and we're about less than 4 months away from the launch of the PS5, which is kind of crazy. Sony, come on, say something about the price, or at least a date would be nice. We know it's coming out in the holiday, but we don't really know the exact date. I really hope there's no delay. And moving on, we have some Rocksteady news, the studio that's been very, very quiet for what seems like years now. So for the past couple of years, I think it's been now, that we've been getting these rumors that some kind of Suicide Squad game was being made by Rocksteady, and it seems like it's true. As you can see, this Twitter announcement right here for DC Fandom is going to showcase the new Suicide Squad game. Now, whether or not this is gameplay or just a CGI trailer, we really don't know, but I would hope, since it's been in development for so long, or rumored to be in development for so long, we would see some kind of gameplay. Now, there are rumors going around that this is going to be a games as a service game, but this is coming from Rocksteady, so I fully expect it to be cosmetic only. Hopefully, if it is games as a service, it could always not be games as a service, because that didn't come from the news source from Rocksteady themselves, so take that with a grain of salt. But if it is, I hope it's just cosmetics. And I hope the cool cosmetics are not locked off. And for the last bit of news, we have the response to the criticism of Halo Infinite's gameplay trailer. Now, Halo Infinite was shown off at the July 2020 showcase for Xbox and Xbox Series X, the next generation of gaming Xbox, which in my opinion was decent. A little too much CGI trailer for me, for my liking, but it showed off some exciting titles nonetheless. But Halo Infinite was the main attraction for all the wrong reasons. Halo Infinite had some pop-ins, some pretty ugly textures, and just felt flat and boring to me, in my opinion, if I'm being 100% honest with you guys. Now, of course, that's graphical fidelity, that's not gameplay. The gameplay honestly looked pretty fun. But if Xbox has been touting these next-gen visuals for the past couple months, and actually no, it's not even past couple months, it's been years now, you would think that their flagship game would not look like a 360/early Xbox One game. Because let's be honest, the Xbox Series X is definitely capable of doing more, but it seems like they weren't doing that. And the reason behind this is because they wanted to shift towards a legacy aesthetic and a more classic art style. Which, yeah, it did feel like previous Halo games, but that's no excuse for the dull visuals and pop-in. Which they fully acknowledge and say that they're working on it and polishing it up. This is a demo that's been several weeks old, and if that's true, I question how much polish can they add to this game, seeing as it's an open world game. But on a side note, multiplayer is going to be free. Now, this is a huge move and will have a huge effect on the longevity of the multiplayer depending on how good it is. Now, of course, there are still other questions, like how are they going to monetize it? Is it just going to be cosmetics, or is there going to be some kind of pass? We don't really know now. One thing's for sure, Microsoft's plan to have one game and keep adding to it seems to extend to Halo and other franchises. It really seems like they're moving into a place where sequels are less likely to happen, and huge updates that change the game in some way, shape, or form are more likely to happen. Overall, guys, there were some really cool things happening this week. Halo's multiplayer being free, Pikmin 3 Deluxe, Nintendo leaks, and more. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this week's news? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below, and for more video game recaps from Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony, subscribe to Robo Gaming for more gaming news. Thanks for watching, guys, and remember, stay safe, stay charged, and have a good one.